Hey there, Stampers, and thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to be playing with Stampin' Up's Distressing Essentials Kit. It's got all kinds of goodies and toys to help make some of the hottest distressed looks. Well, let's get started. I'm going to start with some of Stampin' Up's watercolor paper, 3 inches by 4 1/4. Now from Stampin' Up's French Foliage stamp set, I really want this script. And it's in French, and I have no idea what it says. So anybody out there that speaks French, maybe you can translate these for me. I'm going to stamp them in Versamark ink. And on my original, it's a little hard to see, but it's right about here. So I'm going to stamp it in the center. I'm going to stamp it again right next to that, kind of off the edge. And I'm inking each time. And then maybe one more time down the bottom over towards the left-hand side. It's somewhat random. It's very, very hard to see on here. You can kind of see it on there. It's not the whole thing. Bring in our powder pal tray and our clear emboss powder, which looks white in the jar, but it embosses in clear. I'm going to pour that right over. Flick off any extra. Pour the excess powder right back into the jar. Bring in our handy dandy heat tool. And we will heat that and melt the powder. I'll try to show it in the light so you can kind of see it in the video. Next we are going to use one of Stampin' Up's acrylic clear mount blocks. Now these are actually what we use to mount our clear mount stamps on, but today our clear block E has a solo performance. I think you're going to like it. 2 inks from the Distress Kit, Tea Stain and Mahogany, and the rubber stamp. Starting with Tea Stain, which is the lighter of the colors, I'm going to ink up the color and stamp it on the acrylic block. I'm stamping a couple of times before I re-ink it. I want the block good and inked up. And it's very, very hard to see this on the video, almost impossible. I can't even see it in person. But trust me, it's there, even though we can't see it. Then I'm going to switch over to the Mahogany, which is a darker ink, and you can see it's darker right on the rubber. But you still probably won't be able to see it on the clear block. And I'm not doing the entire clear block in the Mahogany. I'm kind of going to do the top a lot darker than I do the bottom, so it will gradually, the color will gradually get lighter. A little bit down there, but not a lot. And every time you do this, it comes out different. Just put some scrap paper underneath there. I'm going to take just a spritzer bottle and some plain old water. Spritz that real good. And then flip it over and bam! You can see already through the block it has a cool look on the watercolor paper. I kept a Kleenex handy, 1 to wipe off the block and 2 to blot. You'll see our embossed portion here will resist the ink, but the watercolor paper also has texture to it, and the ink isn't going to go into all of those nooks and crannies, and it's going to create this awesome look. Now again, each one's going to be different. Some will be darker, some will be lighter. Going to take some early espresso ink, and back to our script. I inked it up in the early espresso, and I'm going to stamp it many times without re-inking. Next, I'm taking the sunflower side of the Inspired by Nature stamp set from Stampin' Up. We have reeds on one side. These could be sunflowers, daisies, black-eyed Susans. Today we're making them a pretty blue. So to get these multiple colors on the flower, we will be using our Stampin' Right markers. And we're going to use the brush tip end. And you can find that either by looking for the brush tip end as opposed to the fine tip end, or by the wide band at the top. We'll be using Always Artichoke Chocolate Chip and Not Quite Navy. Going to color the stems in the Always Artichoke, the petals in the Not Quite Navy, and the centers in the Early Espresso. Don't worry too much if your marker has dried a little bit on the rubber. We're going to be spritzing that water on it, and that will moisten it. So I've done a couple. I've gotten it fairly wet right on the rubber. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp it at a tiny bit of an angle. Now each one is going to be different, but I can tell you each one is going to be gorgeous. So you can see they're just unbelievably beautiful. Love that watercolor look. You can see the words that we embossed are going to resist the marker, so they're going to come through, and it's just gorgeous. Such a beautiful look. I'm going to attach that to a panel that's just 1/8 of an inch larger and very vanilla, and I'm attaching with some snail adhesive just to give it that clean, very vanilla border around it. And I'm going to take some of Stampin' Up's hemp twine and wrap it around 3 times. And I'm overlapping as I wrap around. Okay, I'm cheating a little bit on the back. You can tie it in a knot. You can attach it with some snail. I actually attached it with some Scotch tape. Shh, don't tell anybody. It's our secret. Isn't it gorgeous? I already love it. Okay, let's add the finishing touches. I'll be using the Square Lattice Impressions folder from Stampin' Up. I've got a quarter sheet of Very Vanilla, which is 5.5 by 4 1/4 cardstock. I'm going to place that right inside the folder. And I'm super excited about this for multiple reasons. One is, this is a brand new Big Shot machine and I'm so excited. Look at these cutting pads. Have you ever seen something so beautiful? They only look this nice once. Once you cut with them, they're normal again. But since this isn't a cutting folder, it won't make a mark on them. If you make one mark, you may as well make 100. I'm going to place this on tab 1 of the multi-purpose cutting platform and crank that through our Big Shot machine. And that gives us this really cool texture. And it doesn't even matter which side of this that we use. Next we're going to create this very cool, it almost looks like a torn old canvas on the back. Off the top of the panel that we just used the Square Lattice Impressions folder on. Tear towards you all the way around. Tearing is good because it gets your aggressions out, especially when you're having a bad day. It's good stamp therapy. And that is going to layer right on top of our Very Vanilla panel. And oh, I just love this look. It's awesome. So I'm using Stampin' Up! Dimensionals on the back of this. Give it a little bit of height and pop with the tone on tone. It just looks ancient, doesn't it? Like an ancient scroll almost. And then some more foam pop dots on the back of our main panel. And I put that at a little bit of an angle over the top. And voila, our card is complete. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. You can purchase all of the supplies I used on this card today, including the Distressing Essentials kit on my blog at stampwithtami.com. Thanks for visiting me today.